Everyone's out to get everyone else. And there's no friendship. That's the beautiful part. Once you know that, you're liberated. Everyone will disappoint you. Not because people are inherently bad, but because it's the fault of the apple, as was written by a fiction writer 40, 30 years ago. Goldman, was it Goldman who wrote it? The fault of the apple. He said it was the fault of the apple. He was so right. I'm guilty of it. I mean, I'm sure I disappoint everybody I know one way or the other. I try not to, but how can you not? How can you not disappoint somebody just being a human being and trying to get through a day? Right? So, you hear what we're talking about already on the show. The other night, last night I watched, remember I told you I was flying back from Florida and I bought the DVD set Mad Men Season 2. And I watched it till my eyes almost fell out. Then I told the pilot, pull it out of the DVD player. So now we bought Season 1 of Mad Men. There's something weird about January Jones. In some scenes in Season 2, she's as gorgeous as Grace Kelly. And then there's some bad cuts where she gets a little puffy. She looks like a different person. She's almost like the 3 or 4 faces of Eve, that woman. She can range from superb, like high-class Connecticut woman. She's best when she puts on the riding uniform and goes riding in Connecticut. But there's some other scenes where she's so dowdy-looking. I don't understand how she could be the same person. I mean, I'm not drawing a bigger conclusion here. I just don't understand as an actress how she could have so many faces. But then that opening scene, the graphics of Mad Men on AMC, where the graphics of the ad man falling out of the building, the cartoon, you know what I mean? Wow, that's really good. In that, it was one misstep and you fell out of you fell out of your career. But has anything changed from the days of the man in the gray flannel suit? Has anything changed in any business today related to the media? I have fallen out of a building 5 times now, and I'm still functioning. I can go back over my career. 5 times people have tried to throw me out of a window. I mean, I don't mean throw me out of a window literally, and no one's Superman. And 5 times I bounced back to where I fell from. Or I climbed back, or I crawled back on the building with suction cups in my hands. What can I tell you? It's because it took me all my life to get there. No one's getting rid of me so fast. And many of them who try to get rid of me wound up getting rid of themselves, like Jackie Smith. She tried to push me out of a window, and right now she's out of the window. And I can name 5 other people in the media who went after me from day one in local stations who are no longer heard of. And I'm making a statement right now. Somebody up there likes me, number 1, or I wouldn't be here, number 2. And number 3, all of you who are out to get me in the media, particularly you conservatives, I will outlive you in the media. I'm telling you right now, I'll be here long after you're gone. I may be 20 years older than you, but I'm telling you as I stand here, I'm going to be here long after you're gone. I'm making that commitment right now. Keep pushing, because you're only playing judo with yourself. You're going to wind up falling out of a window. New York City, WOR, 1-800-449-8255. Gabe, go ahead, please. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Mr. Savage, from formerly of Brooklyn, I live in Long Island now.
Yes, sir.
You just talked about the Jake Sullivan article.
Yes.
And I get 3 papers for the last 60 years. I get
So where is this article by John Sullivan condemned by their own laptops? Is it in today's Post? If it is, what page?
Page 29.
Where is it? Next to a brassiere ad or next to where'd they bury it? Next to some, smut parlor in the Bronx?
Before you get to the editorial. The page.
Oh, shocking. Shocking. It slipped through the censors of the New York Post. How did that happen? Gabe, thanks for calling. That's all. San Diego, John, welcome to the program. Go ahead, please.
Michael Savage in a British court. That would be great. That would be like a pay-per-view moment. I mean, I'd pay money to see that, like a UFC fight. You had to promote it and make some money off it for you.
Well, I understand what they would try to do because the opposition would try their Eton accents on me, thinking they're going to run a number by me that, I sound like a longshoreman or a truck driver. I'm some just shock jock they're going to run over. And I know what would happen. These guys would be very embarrassed after the interchange.
All right.
No, I'll tell you, if we do the documentary movie on me, we'll film it in a British court if I get that far. Or we could put out, remember the thing with the French fries? We wouldn't eat them anymore. Remember that phase when the French were anti-American? How about putting out a product called Fish and Brits, where we get a mold and we cut potatoes in the form of little Brits and we fry them? That might be a big hit, Fish and Brits. Huh? Axelrod's son hired by Huffington Post. Ugh, God, take a look at this prize. You know who Axelrod is, the guy with the mustache, the pencil mustache, who looks like a guy who works for the UJA from the Bronx? What kind of man has a son who has to go to work for Arianna Huffington when it isn't even her name? I mean, she took the name of the oil van that she married for his money, in my opinion. You know, what's her background in Greece? Does anyone know Arianna Huffington? She comes from Greece. Her family allegedly was anti-communist or anti-fascist. It's hard to say. But everybody knows that she was a woman who had cash registers in her eyes. Arianna Huffington was once a conservative when it suited her, and she married Mr. Huffington. He's a very nice man. I actually met him when I was a local talk show host, and he ran for governor. And he came in the studio. Very nice guy. I actually met her. She wasn't a bad person. And then she turned and wound up on Saturday Night Live, as long as I can remember. And she was on the air with Al Franken in bed playing some silly charade. And then she became a liberal because that's where the money was. That's the direction she went in. So now she has some kind of website that no one reads except diehards who look like the movie Pat. And now we realize that she hired one of Obama's minion's sons? Can you believe this? Yes, I could believe it. Where else could the kid work? I mean, McDonald's is full up. The illegal aliens have the jobs that he would normally get. New York City, WOR. Norm, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hi, Mr. Savage. You were talking about why the Republicans don't seem to be talking about the arts.
Yeah.
I'm an artist in New York City. I'm also an art teacher. And I noticed that most of the artists on the grassroots level in the galleries, they all tend to be liberals, leftists. I'm rare among them. And you got the perfect example of 1937 when Johnny Rockefeller II, he hired this guy Orozco, who was a painter, to do his mural in
Rockefeller hired Rothko to do his murals. That's how he got to fame.
Well, no, he was top guy. So he hired a creative guy, and he tried to paint Lenin in one of those murals, which he did. These guys, the painters, tend to be leftists. The guys up on top who would give the grants, who spend the money, they tend to be mostly Republicans, are not too good in art, and they have a little bit of envy in them because they're not artists. So who runs?
Yeah, but why don't the conservatives who have the money demand more from the artistes? Why are all the artistes so left wing? Why is it that they don't understand the basics, which is that when repressive regimes arise, as they have in Venezuela, the artists suffer? Don't they put two and two together that the left today is the danger, that there is no right at all in this country? There's absolutely no right-wing government whatsoever. There's no right-wing waiting in the wings in this country. Where is it? The Republican Party isn't the right wing. They're the Republican Party.
Absolutely right.
The true party of liberation is a party of one. That's what I've been trying to say with my show for these years. A party of none is also a liberation, to not belong to either of these machines. Thanks for the call. Whatever. John in Connecticut, line 5. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Yeah, how you doing, Michael? One of the reasons why we don't listen to or expect to hear the arts and entertainment from you and others is basically we're getting from other places. And you know, I can get my arts and entertainment and go to museums and get that type of thing from other sources, and it's pretty unspinnable from my perspective. We listen to you for direct commentary on politics and finance and other things like that.
Okay, I understand that, but what if a person who is on the right side of the dial, as I am, goes to a museum or an art show and I talk about it? Why is that not of interest? In other words, seeing an art show from the conservative perspective. I'll give you an example. San Francisco once had a pretty good set of museums here. Most of them have been taken over by radical leftists who put on some of the most abominable exhibitions imaginable, such as a series of dresses and clothing worn by some old woman who had a lot of money. They actually put on an exhibit of the woman's shoes, her dresses, her clothing. And I went there, and I think rather hysterically ripped the exhibit apart. I thought that was political and artistic.
I agree. I know there's a lot of other examples of that kind of garbage out there. And you know, I mean, I've heard about it in New York City. Occasionally, there's been art shows where they've, you know, we've heard all about them. But
well, that's what I mean. I'm not going to just talk about art to sound intellectual or to sound like a pseudo-intellectual. But when they do an exhibit in a museum about a woman's shoes, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And I said, this is an example of what's going on in museums today. Now, that's what I mean by covering the arts. Now, of course, in passing, I'll also talk about one of the finest oceanic collections in the world, which happens to be in the museum here. But the best one is in New York City, the Rockefeller collection. You've probably seen it yourself.
Yeah, and we appreciate the interjection occasionally, but for the most part, you know, mainly we're looking for, you know, the direct...
All right, so what you're saying in a nice way is lay off the art crap and stick to politics.
I don't mind the art commentary occasionally, but I can get that from other places. What I can't get is direct commentary on politics. It's always spun in other places. That's why we come to you, because you.
Yeah, but listen, here's the thing. I come on late in the day in New York on the East Coast. I come on late afternoon.